She said, "It's not what you think," while I showed her parents the hotel bills with his name on them. Her mum's hand flew to her mouth before she even finished reading the top line on the statement. Her dad squinted down his glasses, leaning closer to the dining table, lips moving silently as he read the dates, the hotel name, the room type. Executive Suite, Deluxe King. The overhead light hummed quietly above us, the lasagna on the table going cold, the smell of tomatoes and cheese suddenly nauseating. My thumb pressed into the glossy paper so hard it left a little crescent in the corner. Next to me, Anna's chair scraped back. "Dad, don't," she started, voice high and thin. "Anna," I said, still weirdly calm, like my body had gone into some emergency mode where feelings were on a time delay. "Let him finish." Her mum looked between us, eyes glossy. What is this?" she whispered. "This can't be right." "It's not what you think," Anna said again, louder this time, directing it at them now instead of me, like maybe the spell would work better on new targets. "It's work stuff, it looks bad, but it's not." "Work doesn't usually check in as Mr. and Mrs., I said, finally looking up from the bills and meeting her dad's eyes. My voice sounded steady. It surprised me. "And I'm pretty sure your sales conferences don't require rose petals on the bed." Her dad's gaze snapped back to the statement, to the line item, romantic turned-on package, couples special. His jaw tightened. Across the table, Anna's face went through about 6 emotions in 3 seconds. Panic, anger, pleading, calculation. I watched all of them and felt distant, like I was at the wrong end of a telescope watching my own life. We'd been together 8 years when I decided to invite my wife's parents over for dinner and show them proof she was cheating on me. If you told me even 6 months ago that I'd be that guy, the one neatly printing out hotel invoices and lining them up like exhibits, I would have laughed in your face. I'm not confrontational by nature. I don't like scenes. I'm the one who quietly emails customer support instead of making a fuss at the counter. But I'm also not a liar, and I was tired of feeling like the crazy one in a story where I could see all the plot twists coming, and she kept insisting it was a comedy. "I'm 34M, she's 33F, call me Daniel, call her Anna. Her parents are Margaret and Peter, but I've always called them Marg and Pete. I'm putting this here because I've told this story in pieces to my sister, to my best mate, to my therapist, and I need to lay it out straight, start to finish, somewhere. If this reads like a confession more than a question, that's because the advice part, if there is one, probably comes after the fact. Right now I just need to get it out of my head." I met Anna on a rainy Wednesday at Officeworks, of all places. I was standing in the stationery aisle, holding 2 nearly identical packs of highlighters and having an existential crisis over the price difference, when someone next to me muttered, "This is how you know capitalism has gone too far." I turned and she was there. Messy ponytail, university hoodie, glasses sliding down her nose, frowning at a $24 notebook. She caught my eye, grimaced in solidarity, and put it back. "How good can paper really be?" she said. I held up my highlighters. "How bright do things need to be important?" she snorted. "Deep," she said. "You should put that on a motivational poster." We ended up in line behind each other. She forgot her reusable bag. I had a spare. We joked about saving turtles. Classic meet-cute stuff, the kind of story you tell at engagement parties. I was 26, working as an accountant in a small firm I pretended was more exciting than it was. She was 25, finishing her master's in marketing, working part-time at a cafe. Wrote her number on my receipt with one of the overpriced pens and said, "In case you ever want to debate highlighters again." Our first date was coffee that lasted 4 hours. She talked with her hands, knocking her cup twice, laughing at herself every time. She was one of those people who could turn a story about catching the wrong bus into something you actually wanted to hear. I was quieter, but she never made me feel like I had to perform. She asked questions, waited for answers. We moved fast, I guess. By our first anniversary, we were spending most nights at each other's places anyway, so we found a tiny flat halfway between her uni and my office. It had peeling paint and a shower you had to whack twice to make it stop dripping, but it was ours. Anna's parents loved me from the start, or at least that's what they said. "You're good for her, Dan," Pete told me once, clapping me on the shoulder as we loaded leftovers into their fridge after Sunday lunch. "She's always been a bit all over the place. You settle her." Marg would send us home with Tupperware full of lasagna and casseroles, because you two forget to eat properly. They fought through their own storms, Pete's brief unemployment, Marg's breast cancer scare, and come out the other side still sitting on the same side of the booth at restaurants. They were, in my head, what making it work looked like. Anna and I got married 3 years into the relationship. Smallish wedding, community hall, fairy lights, too much ABBA on the playlist. That Officeworks story got told 3 times in different speeches. When I said my vows, the ones I'd written and rewritten because I was terrified of sounding cheesy, I watched her eyes shine and thought, this is it. This is my person. I meant every word about fidelity, about partnership, about choosing each other every day. I believed she did too. It genuinely didn't occur to me that we might be two different species reading the same script in different languages. Marriage at first was mostly just life. Shared bills, shared laundry, shared Netflix recommendations. She got a marketing job at a tech company, I moved to a bigger firm. We disagreed about paint colors for the spare room, about how often one needs to vacuum, about whether buying a Dyson was a responsible investment. She argued yes, she was right. We fought, sometimes, about stupid things and big things, but it always felt like we were fighting with each other against the problem, not fighting each other as the problem. If you asked me when things started to go wrong, I wouldn't point to one big dramatic moment. It was little shifts, like the difference between a plant that needs water and a plant that's slowly been overwatered until the roots rot. It looks fine on the surface for a while. Then one day you touch a leaf and the whole thing collapses in your hand. The first time I heard his name, we were brushing our teeth. Tom booked this client dinner last minute, she said around a mouthful of foam, hair piled on her head. My old t-shirt hanging off one shoulder. He didn't even give us a brief. He just sent an invite that said, bring your ideas, like we're fonts he can scroll through. Tom, I asked, spitting. New head of sales, she said, rolling her eyes. Tall, loud, one of those guys who leans on chairs in meetings. You know the type. I'd met plenty of Toms in suits over the years. They sold enthusiasm and confidence and left everyone else to clean up the details. Over the next few months, his name came up more often. Tom wants us to pitch this campaign like it's a revolution, even though it's literally a slightly faster version of the same software. Tom thinks wine counts as a carb, so he can balance his macros. Tom is making us go to this conference on the Gold Coast. Kill me. Most of it was complaining. She did impressions of his walk, his way of saying synergy, his habit of putting his sunglasses on top of his head indoors. I laughed. He was a character in her work stories, like the annoying client who insisted their logo had to be bigger. The first time I actually saw him, it was in a photo on her Instagram. Conference dinner, long table, everyone in semi-formal clothes. Anna in a black dress I hadn't seen before, holding a glass of wine, head thrown back in a laugh. Next to her, angled just so, was a guy in a navy suit. With his tie loosened, leaning in toward her like he'd just said something clever. Tagged, @TomSalesLegend. His real handle was some combination of his name and closer, which made me gag a little. Wow, someone discovered the gym, I said, handing her back her phone. She smirked. Trust me, the personality doesn't match the biceps, she said. He's like if LinkedIn was a person. I didn't think much of it. She'd never been into that type before. Her ex before me had been a musician who forgot rent, and sometimes entire days of the week existed. I was the opposite of that, stable, boring in a way that she said made her feel safe. Then came the first work trip. Tom wants the whole team at the regional strategy offsite, she said one night, scrolling through her emails on the couch. 3 nights. They're putting us up at that new hotel near the river. Should be nice, actually. We get a dinner cruise. I made a face. That sounds like one of those corporate things where you have to write your personal brand statement on a post-it, I said. Oh, 100%, she said, but there's a minibar, so. She sent me photos of buffet breakfasts, of the view from her room, of her coworker Gabby doing a terrible karaoke version of Don't Stop Believin'. We FaceTimed one night. She was in her pajamas, makeup off, hair in a bun, talking about how she was sick of Tom saying, circle back. See, she said, panning her phone around the room. 2 single beds, one messed up, one still made. I'm sharing with Gabby, safest corporate trip ever. I believed her, why wouldn't I? After that, there always seemed to be another event, another dinner, another quick overnight. I noticed, mostly because our shared calendar filled up with her being away. Is this normal? I asked once. They didn't do this when you first started. They're pushing hard into new markets, she said, not looking up from her laptop. It'll calm down, and hey, it's free travel. Yeah, I said, I just miss you. She smiled at that, reached over, squeezed my knee. You'll barely notice I'm gone, she said. You've got your numbers. It was a joke, but it landed weird. The first real crack, the one I felt in my body, came on a Sunday afternoon. We were doing budgets at the dining table, me with my spreadsheets, her with her crumpled receipts. We share a credit card for joint expenses, groceries, electricity, stupidly expensive Dyson repayments. I was scrolling through the statement, half on autopilot, ticking things off. Woolies, AAMI, Netflix, Kohl's. Then Riverside Grand Hotel, $486.30. My eyes flicked to the date, 2 weeks ago, Friday, the same Friday she told me she was at a client dinner and might stay at Gabby because it'll finish late. Hey, I said casually, stomach tightening. What's this? I turned the laptop so she could see. She barely glanced up. Oh, that, she said. Tom booked the rooms, but his card bounced or something, so he put it on mine and then reimbursed me. I told you, remember? I racked my brain. She might have, in passing, in one of those end-of-day rambles. Did the money come back in? I asked. She frowned, scrolling through her phone. Yeah, ages ago, she said. Check the next week, there should be a transfer. There was a bank transfer in from T. Morgan for the exact amount. It made sense. It lined up. My shoulders loosened a little. Okay, I said. Don't start going full forensic accountant on my work trips, she joked. I promise if I ever decide to have a sordid affair, I won't put it on the joint card. We both laughed, the kind of laugh you don't realize is writing itself into the worst kind of foreshadowing. Life went on, my firm got busier. I started doing longer hours during tax season. Anna's job ramped up as well. We saw less of each other during the week, more of each other in that half-asleep, scrolling on phones in bed way. I started noticing other things, in the way you only really notice when you already have a small itch in your brain. Her phone, once an open book she tossed around the house, became a permanent attachment to her hand. She changed her passcode because of the new IT policy, but for some reason, I was no longer in the tiny circle of people who knew it. When it buzzed after 11 p.m., she'd flip it face down. Who's texting you so late? I asked once, trying to make it sound light. Group chat, she said without looking up. Meme dump, you wouldn't get it. Maybe I wouldn't, I'm not in marketing. I don't understand how fonts can be aggressive. But I do understand body language, and hers was saying, do not come near this. I told myself it was stress, that we were both tired, that we'd reconnect properly after things slowed down. I suggested a weekend away. She said she couldn't be away from her laptop for more than 24 hours with this new project. Then one night she came home drunk. Not tipsy, not happy, that messy, giggly drunk that tips into mean quickly. It was 1:15 a.m. I know because I looked at the clock when the keys scraped repeatedly at the lock. I got out of bed, opened the door. She half fell against me, smelling like perfume and wine and something musky I didn't recognize. Hey, I said, catching her, you okay? Fine, she mumbled, waving an arm. We smashed the presentation. Tom bought shots, Tom's an idiot. She staggered to the couch and flopped down, heels dangling off one foot. Her dress rode up. I gently tugged it down, tucked a cushion under her head. Her phone buzzed in her hand. In one clumsy movement, she dropped it. It hit the floor face up. A preview of a message lit up the screen. Tom can still smell you on me. Next time we get a whole weekend. Worth every cent, Mrs. M. The world narrowed to that line, the way my name sat there in miniature, utterly humiliated. I could still smell something on her. For a moment I froze, every neuron fired in a different direction. One part of my brain screamed, pick it up, read everything. Another whispered, put it down, pretend you didn't see. She groaned then, rolled over, hands searching blindly for the phone. Without thinking, I kicked it gently closer with my foot. She grabbed it, squinted, giggled at the brightness, typed something back I couldn't see, then dropped it on her chest and passed out. I stood there in the half-dark, heart pounding in my ears, staring at her. My first instinct wasn't rage. It was embarrassment. Embarrassment that this was happening to me, to us, after all those smug internal monologues I'd had about how solid we were, how we communicated, how we weren't like those couples with secrets. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to her, listening to her faint snore, replaying every late night, every it's just work drinks, every you're overthinking it. In the morning, she was nauseous and grumpy and asked me to make toast. I watched her shuffle around the kitchen, hair in a bun, my hoodie on, and the words in that text overlaid like subtitles. Can still smell you on me. I didn't say anything, not then. I wanted to, but I felt weirdly unprepared. It's like your house catches fire in one room and you decide to make a list before calling the fire brigade. I needed to know, needed to be sure I wasn't conjuring this from nothing, needed more than one damning line on a screen I'd glimpsed for a second. So yeah, I snooped. It's not something I'm proud of. I know all the arguments. If you feel the need to look, the relationship is already broken, privacy matters, two wrongs, etc. I agree with those in principle. But I also know what it's like to see your wife's boss texting her about smelling her on him, and to be told repeatedly that you're paranoid when you raise concerns. She went to have a shower. Her phone was on the bedside table, screen dark. I picked it up, thumb hovering for a second like maybe the thing would burn me, then pressed it to her sleeping face earlier that morning when she'd stirred. Face ID did its thing. The messages were a lot. They went back months, not just the obvious stuff, though there was plenty of that, descriptions that made me want to bleach my brain. There were also the emotional bits. Him complaining about his wife not understanding him, her talking about feeling stuck at home, about how I was nice but emotionally reserved, him calling her electric, my star, the only one who gets me. Hotels, lots of hotels, some I recognized from her expenses, some I didn't. I saw my own name pop up in their chat like some sad supporting character. Anna, Dan thinks I'm at Gabby's lol. Tom, he doesn't deserve you. If he appreciated you, you wouldn't need to hide. I don't know how long I scrolled. My face was hot and cold at the same time. My hands went numb. That buzzing sound in my ears intensified. Then I made a very deliberate decision. I started taking photos. Of the worst ones. The ones where he mentioned using the corporate card. The ones where she talked about checking in as Mr. and Mrs. at conferences. The ones where he sent her a photo of the hotel room key with a winking emoji, and she replied with saving water, sharing a shower. I didn't do it to blackmail her. I did it because I could already hear the gaslighting beginning. You're misinterpreting. We only kissed. It was emotional, not physical. You're taking it out of context. I needed context that wasn't going anywhere. The next week was a strange kind of limbo. I confronted her in small ways, testing. Are you and Tom close? I asked one night as she packed an overnight bag. She shrugged. Close-ish, she said. He's my boss. We work together a lot. More than Gabby. She zipped the bag, paused. Why are you jealous? She asked, half teasing, half watchful. I don't know, I said honestly. Should I be? She rolled her eyes, came over, put her arms around my neck. Dan, she said, looking up at me. Babe, Tom is a work idiot. You are my husband. It's not what you think. There it was again, the spell. I almost wanted to say a key reality to see if anything changed. I've seen some of your messages, I blurted, before I could overthink it. Her arms dropped. What? The other night you dropped your phone, I said. A message popped up, I couldn't unsee it. Her eyes flashed. So you went through my phone, she snapped. I picked it up, I said. It was unlocked. I saw a message from him saying he could still smell you on him. Then I saw more. That's a violation, Dan, she said, voice shaking more with anger than shame. You don't just go through my private conversations. So is fucking your boss in hotel rooms we're paying for, I said, the word fucking tasting like acid in my mouth. We can talk about the ethics of both if you want, but only one of us is using the joint card for their violation. Her face went pale. You're blowing this out of proportion, she said quickly. It's not. What, not an affair? I asked. What would you call it then? We messed up, she said. Once. I almost laughed. Once, I said. Anna, I've seen the dates. I've seen how often you mess up. That's not a mistake. That's a decision you keep making. Tears sprang to her eyes finally. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said, the cliché falling out of her mouth like it was printed on her tongue. It started as, I don't know, work drinks, venting. He understood my job. You were so busy with tax season, and I felt invisible and... So you decided to be very visible to Tom, I said. Multiple times, in multiple venues. I didn't plan it, she shouted. Right, I said. You just accidentally checked into the Riverside Grand as Mr. and Mrs. Morgan and tripped onto him. She flinched. We both stood there breathing hard, the overnight bag between us like a weird prop. I ended it, she said finally, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. I told him it was a mistake. We're stopping. Did you end it because you wanted to? I asked, or because you realized I'd seen proof? She didn't answer. That should have been the end. For a lot of people, it probably would be. In a movie, I would have thrown her stuff out the window, dramatically moved out, and that would be Act 2. But we don't live in movies. We live in leases and joint accounts and shared pets and families who will have 1,000 questions. Anna's parents adore her. She's their only child. When we got married, they basically adopted me too. Sunday lunches, phone calls about nothing, Pete asking me for help with his tax, Marg texting me bread recipes. They also, like a lot of parents, had a very clear idea of who their daughter was and wasn't. Their version of her didn't include cheats on her husband with her boss. After that first confrontation, there were attempts. She promised she'd quit her job. Then she didn't because the market is bad and I can't throw away my career over one mistake. She promised she'd block him. Then I'd see T pop up on her screen. We started couples counseling. The therapist was kind but firm. She dug into my conflict avoidance, Anna's need for validation, our patterns. Some sessions, I felt like we were making progress. Others, I felt like I was sat in a room listening to a very articulate woman explain why cheating was actually a cry for help. "We can recover from this," Anna said one night after a session, eyes red, mascara smudged. "People do. We can be one of those couples who get stronger after." "I could have tried," I said, "if it was just us, but it's not just us. It's him. It's your work. It's the lies about where you are, the financial stuff, the fact that you still talk about him like he's some tragic romantic lead instead of your married boss who took advantage of you in our marriage." "He didn't take advantage of me," she snapped. "I wasn't coerced. I wanted it too. I'm not a victim." I stared at her. "Okay," I said slowly. "Then you're not a victim, you're a participant." She opened her mouth, closed it again. And meanwhile, outside our little therapy bubble, things were leaking. Pete called me one afternoon, voice awkward. "Everything all right with you too?" he asked, too casual. "Define all right," I said. "There's just been tension," he said. "Anna seems off." I could hear Anna in the background of my life refashioning the narrative. I don't know exactly what she told them, but I got the sense she was laying down groundwork. We were having issues. I was emotionally distant. Work had changed me. Nothing concrete, just enough that if things blew up, they'd already have a frame. It made me furious in a way I didn't quite know how to carry. It's one thing to betray me. It's another to draft my character assassination before I even have a chance to speak. That's when the idea formed. Not fully, not I will invite them over and present Exhibit A, B, C, more like a foggy sense that if this ended, I wanted the people who loved us to know the truth. Not my spin, not her spin, just what was. The hotel bills came from a very boring place, my accountant brain. I started going back through our joint statements properly, not paranoid, not scrolling at 2 a.m., but methodically, highlighter in hand, ironically enough. There it was again, Riverside Grand, Harborlight Suites, Parkview Hotel, not always under her card, sometimes under mine when she'd forgotten hers and used the joint, each one on dates that lined up with conferences, client dinners, late-night strategizing. Sometimes the charges were reimbursed by her company, sometimes by T. Morgan, sometimes not at all. That irritated me on a separate level. We're not rich. We have savings goals. Every dollar counts. And there she was dipping into our shared pot to fund her little drama. I requested detailed invoices from the hotels for tax purposes. White lie if you want to be generous. They sent them over happily. Room types, dates, packages. In 2 of them there was a note, guest name, Mr. and Mrs. T. Morgan. In another, romance package, champagne on arrival. I printed them, 3 neat, crisp pages. I put them in a plain manila folder. And I sat with them for a week, pulling them out, putting them back. It was Marg's text that decided it. "Hi love, haven't seen you 2 in ages. Come for lunch soon, missing my favorite son-in-law, XXX. I stared at it, thumb hovering over the keyboard. I could lie, say we were busy, say we'd come soon and never commit. Or I could invite them over to our house where this marriage lived and tell them the truth with evidence in hand so no one could reframe it later. So I invited them to ours for dinner instead. "I'll cook," I said. "Lasagna." "Wow," Marg texted back. "Things must be serious if you're using the oven." Anna was weird about it when I told her. "Why?" she asked immediately. "Why do they have to come here?" "Because they're your parents," I said, "and we haven't seen them in weeks, and I'm tired of pretending everything is normal." Her eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, "that I'm going to tell them what's been going on. With you, with Tom, with us." Panic flickered across her face. "No," she said quickly. "No, Dan, that's between us. You can't drag them into this." "You already have," I said. "You've been laying the groundwork, right? Telling them I'm distant, that we're struggling, that work is getting to me. You don't get to control the narrative anymore. They deserve to know why their daughter's marriage is falling apart." "You're going to humiliate me," she said, voice rising. "I'm going to be honest," I said. "What they feel about it is up to them." She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Maybe she didn't. I didn't entirely recognize myself either. The night of the dinner, I set the table like I always did when they came over. Plates, cutlery, the slightly chipped salad bowl Marg had given us last Christmas. The manila folder sat on the sideboard, innocuous. Anna kept glancing at it like it was a bomb. "Can we please not do this?" she hissed at me while we waited for them to arrive. We're working on it, we're in counseling, you're just going to make everything worse. Worse than what? I asked. Worse than having sex with your boss in hotel rooms and then coming home to me and gaslighting me. I think we've already hit worse. This is just sunlight. The doorbell rang, she flinched. I opened the door. Marg enveloped me in a hug that smelled like her perfume and laundry powder. My boy, she said, you look thin. Pete patted my shoulder. You all right, mate? He asked quietly. There was something in his tone, wary but kind. Anna hovered in the hallway, smoothing her dress. Hi, Mum, she said. Hi, Dad. We did the usual dance for a while. Small talk, work chat. Pete complained about traffic. Marg asked about a recipe. Anna poured wine, her smile a little too bright. I brought the lasagna out, made stupid jokes about overcooking it. I almost lost my nerve. There was a moment where I thought, we can just have dinner. I don't have to blow up her image for them. I can quietly leave later and let them figure it out. But then Marg said, it's good to see you too. We were starting to worry. Last time we spoke, Annie sounded stressed. She looked at Anna with that mum gaze, gentle but sharp. Everything all right between you? The room stilled. I looked at Anna. She shook her head slightly, almost imperceptibly, a tiny plea. I stood up instead, went to the sideboard, picked up the folder. My heart was thudding so hard I could feel it in my fingers. Actually, I said, coming back to the table, there's something I need to show you both, and I need Anna to hear it while I do. Dan, no, Anna said, reaching out, fingers grazing my wrist. I gently pulled away, sat down, opened the folder. The top invoice, crisp and horrifyingly official, stared up at us. I slid it across the table until it was next to Marg's plate. What's this? She asked, frowning. Hotel bills, I said, for the last 6 months. All on our joint card, some reimbursed, some not, all booked by Anna's boss. I forced myself to keep my voice even. Take a look at the guest names. They did. Marg's lips moved as she read. Pete leaned in, squinting. Guest name, Mr. and Mrs. T. Morgan. Package, romance special. Note, champagne on arrival, rose petals on bed. Marg's face drained of color. She looked up at Anna, then at me. Dan, she said slowly, what? Anna shot to her feet, chair scraping loudly. This is so out of context, she said. It's not what you think. Pete's jaw was set in that way I'd only ever seen when he talked about politicians. What is it then? He asked. They book in the wife's name sometimes, she said quickly, for privacy, and it's cheaper to share rooms on these work trips. Everyone does it. It's not like that. I snorted before I could stop myself. Everyone checks in as Mr. and Mrs. T. Morgan and orders couples massages, I said. I pulled out the second invoice, slid it next to the first. These aren't generic work trips, Anna. These are weekends, Fridays to Sundays. No conferences scheduled. No other staff booked at the same hotel. Pete picked up the second sheet. His hands shook slightly. Marg had her hand over her mouth again. Is this true? She whispered to Anna. Anna's eyes filled with tears. We messed up, she said finally. It's not, I didn't mean. You messed up, Pete repeated, voice like gravel. How many times? She looked at me like maybe I'd throw her a bone. I stayed silent. Enough that the hotel knows us, I said eventually, and enough that I've been paying for some of it. Maybe with your money too, actually, Marg. That birthday transfer was a nice touch. Marg made a strangled sound. You used our money, she said to Anna. Our gift for this. Anna crumpled back into her chair, sobbing. It wasn't like that, she said. I didn't plan it. It started as one kiss after a client dinner, and then everything was so stressful and Dan was so far away and Tom understood and... Tom is married, I said. You're married, you had options. Talking to me, leaving me, changing jobs. Literally anything other than what you did. That's what this is, Pete. Marg. Not one moment, a pattern. They looked between us like they were watching a tennis match in hell. I wanted you to know, I said, turning to them. My voice shook now, finally, because I love your daughter. I still do, God help me. But I can't stay in a marriage where I'm being lied to, gaslit, and treated like an inconvenience while she plays house with her boss in hotel rooms. And I also don't want to be the villain in a story where she tells you we just grew apart, or I couldn't handle her career. Marg's eyes were full of tears now. Annie, she said softly, is it true? Anna just sobbed, didn't deny it, didn't meet my eyes. Pete took off his glasses, rubbed his face. He looked older than I'd ever seen him. Dan, I don't know what to say, he said. Thank you for telling us. He glanced at his daughter. I wish it wasn't like this. Anna slammed her hand on the table. "You're taking his side," she shouted through tears. "Your own daughter." "This isn't about sides," Marg said quietly. "This is about what you've done." "You don't know what it's like," Anna cried. "You sit up there on your hill with your perfect marriage and your roast dinners, and you have no idea what it's like to be in my life right now. The pressure, the expectations. Tom sees me. He believes in me. Dan just sees spreadsheets." That strung, not because of what she said about me, but because of how familiar it sounded. The script, the "he sees me" script. "I see you," I said, more to myself than to her. "I've always seen you. I just didn't see this coming because I made the mistake of thinking your vows meant the same thing to you as they did to me." She flinched again. The rest of the evening is a blur of tears and half-formed sentences. Marg tried to hug Anna. Anna pushed her away. Pete asked practical questions about HR, about whether anyone at work knew about what this meant for her job. I sat there feeling like I'd run a marathon and then been hit by a car at the finish line. At some point, Pete put a hand on my shoulder. "You don't have to decide anything tonight," he said. "I've decided," I said quietly. "I'm moving out. I've already found a place. I wanted you to know why." Anna stared at me, shocked. You already?" "I can't live like this," I said. "I can't be in a house where every notification might be him, where every late night might be another mistake." "You're giving up," she said, just like that. "I'm giving up on being the only one who thinks our marriage is monogamous," I said. "That's all." Marg cried harder at that. Pete squeezed my shoulder tighter. Eventually they left. Not in the neat way I'd imagined, no tidy, "we'll talk later," just Marg sobbing and saying, "Please, both of you get help," and Pete looking like he wanted to punch a wall. When the door closed behind them, the house felt weirdly quiet. Anna stood in the hallway, mascara streaked down her cheeks, breathing hard. "How could you do that to me?" she said finally, voice hoarse. "To you," I repeated. "Yes," she said, "in front of them, my parents, you humiliated me." "You humiliated yourself," I said, exhausted. "I just stopped covering for it. You've nuked my relationship with them," she said. "They'll never look at me the same way." "You're their daughter," I said. "They'll love you, they might struggle with what you've done. That's fair, but they'll still be there. I was supposed to be your partner. You turned me into an extra in your affair." She sank onto the stairs, buried her face in her hands. "I hate you," she whispered. Then a second later, "I hate myself more." I didn't comfort her. For the first time in our entire relationship, I didn't feel responsible for making her feel better. It felt cruel and freeing and awful all at once. I slept on the couch that night. The next day I packed a suitcase, some clothes, my laptop, important documents. I left my wedding ring on the bedside table next to hers. "I'll be in touch about the legal stuff," I said, standing in the doorway. "Dan, please," she said, voice raw. "Don't throw this away, we can fix it. I'll quit, I'll block him, I'll do whatever you want." "You already did whatever you wanted," I said. "For months, this isn't me throwing something away. This is me finally accepting what you already did to it." I left. That was a few weeks ago. I'm in a small one-bedroom now with mismatched furniture and an old couch my sister lent me. My life fits in half a dozen boxes and a couple of suitcases. There are evenings where I feel strangely light, like I've stepped out of a heavy coat I didn't realize I'd been wearing in summer. There are nights I wake up at 3 a.m. convinced I've made a huge mistake, that I should have fought harder, that I should have been more forgiving. Then I remember the hotel bills, the messages, the way she used "it's not what you think" like a band-aid over a bullet wound, the way she twisted the story before I could speak. I'm in individual therapy now. Couples therapy stopped, obviously. My therapist tells me I'm allowed to grieve and be angry at the same time, that I can miss the person I thought she was and still be glad I left the situation I was actually in. Anna and I talk occasionally, mostly about logistics. She emailed to say she'd reported the relationship to HR. Apparently Tom resigned before they could formally act. She says she's started her own therapy. She says she's sorry in every message in different words. I believe she feels sorry. I also believe she's very good at feeling sorry without necessarily doing the deeper work of understanding why she did what she did. That's her journey now, not mine. Marg texted me last night. "We love you, Dan. You will always be family to us, whatever happens on paper. Please look after yourself. XXX." I cried when I read it. I didn't realize how much I'd been bracing for them to cut me off to circle the wagons around their daughter. Instead, they seem to be doing something harder, loving us both while holding us both accountable in different ways. I don't know what the future looks like. Divorce papers are being drafted. I'm learning how to cook for one without defaulting to toast. I'm figuring out how to tell people in a way that does make every conversation awkward. She had an affair with her boss, and I showed her parents the receipts, is a bit much for casual small talk. If you've made it this far, I guess here's the TLDR in emotional terms rather than bullet points. I didn't become a petty, vindictive person overnight. I became a person who was tired of being lied to and tired of watching someone rewrite reality. Showing her parents the hotel bills wasn't about revenge, though I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some grim satisfaction in seeing the truth land. It was about refusing to carry the shame of someone else's choices alone. If you're in a similar situation, sitting on proof, being made to feel crazy, listening to that constant refrain of "it's not what you think," here's what I wish someone had told me earlier. Your perception is not automatically invalid just because your partner says it is. If all the evidence points one way and their words point another, you're allowed to trust the evidence. Black circle cheating isn't just a mistake. It's a chain of decisions, each one offering an exit ramp. By the time there are hotel bills and secret names involved, they've driven past a lot of exits. You're allowed to tell the truth, to friends, to family, to whoever will be impacted by the fallout. You don't owe your partner the protection of their image if they've blown up your reality. Leaving isn't throwing something away. Sometimes it's the only way to stop being thrown around. Anna once told me early on that she'd rather know an ugly truth than live with a comforting lie. At the time, I thought that made us the same. Now I think she said it because she wanted to reserve the right to tell herself the lie and hear the truth only when she was ready. I used to think "it's not what you think" was a reassurance. Now I hear it as a red flag. Sometimes it is exactly what you think, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is put the invoices on the table, look people in the eye and say, "This is what it is. I'm done pretending otherwise."